easycater.com/NPR. Easy Cater, a business tool to shop food, designed to help organizations order food for meetings and events from restaurants nationwide, set up employee lunch programs, and manage food spend at easycater.com. And Progressive Insurance, where drivers can compare direct rates using Progressive's rate comparison tool. Customers can see options and rates side by side. More at progressive.com or 1-800-PROGRESSIVE. From NPR and WBEZ Chicago, this is Wait, Don't Tell Me, the NPR News Quiz. I'm Bill Curtis, and here is your host at the Studebaker Theater in the Fine Arts Building in downtown Chicago, Illinois, Peter Sagal.
Thank you, Bill. Thanks, everybody. So we've officially declared it's spring break for all of our listeners this week. Now, we thought about going to the same places we used to hang out in college, but for some reason, when we go there, they think we're undercover police officers now.
Damn, now where am I supposed to score my uppers?
So, as we find people our own age to do shots with, anti-inflammatory turmeric shots, of course, here's some more of our favorite conversations from the last year.
Last June, we went to Philadelphia to interview a man who had grown up just a few blocks from where we were talking to him and had become one of the most famous jazz bassists in the world.
Now, of course, being a famous bassist is a bit of a contradiction, which was one of the things I asked Christian McBride about.
Well, I always say being a famous jazz bass player is being like a famous plumber. Because I might not get invited to the party, but you need me.
So, when you were starting out, were you immediately into jazz? Was that your first love?
No, I wanted to play with James Brown.
Really? That was your thing?
Yes, which I'm very happy to say I eventually did, but I grew up as an R&B kid, you know, Philly.
And you actually got to play. You played with a lot of people, but you actually got to play with James Brown.
I got to play with Mr. Brown,
and
yes.
What's it like meeting your heroes, in the case of Mr. Brown?
It's complicated.
Yeah, that's what everybody says. We heard that he used to levy fines on his band members if they screwed up.
But that was standard practice for a lot of band leaders in the 40s and 50s. You know, Ray Charles did that, Lionel Hampton did that, Benny Goodman did that. That was part of the gig, you know, like if you screwed up, $10 coming out of your pay at the end of the night.
So
now, of course, James Brown kept that practice going long after everybody stopped.
Right. Significant part of his income, I'm sure, by the end. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So when did you get into jazz?
When I first started playing the double bass when I got to middle school, because I'd been playing the electric bass for a couple of years, my great Uncle Howard, who's the other bass player in the family, he was so excited. He said, "Come over to my house, I got something for you." And now that he found out that I was playing the double bass, he said, "Hey, I'm going to turn you on to the Cats." So he spent the whole day playing nothing but jazz albums for me. And my great uncle had this very cool way of, you know, he would put a record on, and he had a chair similar to this. He would sit down, he would sit way down like this. He'd light up a cigarette and have a glass of wine, and he would start playing air bass along with the record.
Right.
And, you know, he would slap me on the arm and say, "Hey, listen to what Coltrane is about to do." And he pointed the record, "Ooh, you hear that?" And so it was so entertaining watching my great uncle listen to jazz. I said, well, if jazz makes him that cool, then I want to be cool too.
Right.
So that one visit with my great uncle.
Really?
Yeah.
And then,
does he also do that during movies?
Probably.
yeah. I don't know how many ensembles and groups you've started in your career, but my understanding is the latest one is called The New John.
Actually, the New John is...
Right. That's, I should say, for non-Philadelphians, that's not the name John, that's J-A-W-N.
I actually have a new group since the New John.
Oh, I'm sorry. So
so the New John is the old John.
I see, yeah.
Right.
Could you explain to non-Philadelphians what a John is?
It's a person, place, or thing.
Yeah.
You know, Joelle could have a new partner or whatever. Like, hey, you seen Joelle's new John?
A new John.
Really?
You know? Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because I grew up in Atlanta, so John which is also, that's house. I guess at the place they call it the Dozens.
Yeah.
So when we're going back and forth, that's what we call joning.
Well, see, John has different versions regionally. Like in New York, it's joint.
Yeah. Right.
You know, someone said in Memphis, this is funny. They said it's junt.
Yeah.
Memphis.
Junt?
Yeah, junt. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I don't know what it is on the West Coast.
Yeah. Who cares?
Who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure Kendrick Lamar will tell us.
Right, right.
Well, Christian McBride, it is such a pleasure to talk to you in your hometown, and we have asked you back here to play a game we're calling
Bass Pro meet Bass Pro.
Oh, man. I was afraid.
Really?
Oh,
You
man.
anticipated that?
I was hoping to be baseball and not bass. Oh, boy.
You ever been to Bass Pro Shop?
No.
No,
They're one of
okay.
the best stores in the world.
Really?
All
Yes,
right.
I love a Bass Pro Shop.
Exactly. So you know
You
about
contain
you're,
That
was a
you're,
good look,
you're
Joel.
a world-renowned genius when it comes to the bass, the instrument. So what do you know about Bass the Pro Shop? We're going to ask you 3 questions about the outdoor store that is not REI. Answer 2 out of 3 questions correctly, you'll win the prize for one of our listeners, the waiter of their choice on their voicemail. Bill, who is jazz legend Christian McBride playing for?
Chris Dunn of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Hometown guy. All right. So Bass Pro Shops are famous for their enormous sales floors and the things on them, like giant aquariums, actual running streams through the floor, and more. All of that natural beauty, though, can backfire, as in which of these cases? A, one store in Texas is now home to a family of geese who refuse to let anyone go near the camping supply section. B, at a shop in Florida, a man showed up with a net, scooped a 50-pound fish right out of the aquarium, and then just walked out with it. Or C, a store in Kansas was declared a protected environment for a species of endangered fish, and now nobody is allowed inside.
Yeah, well, considering this is America,
Yeah.
I would go with B.
Right, meaning this is the place where people just go in there and take
Yeah.
that fish.
Right,
No
right.
price tag on it.
That's right.
You're right, yes. That's what happened. And according to the store, the thief, and perhaps for all we know, the fish, is still at large. Maybe he was rescuing it in a Finding Nemo kind of way. We don't know. Now, next question. One of the most famous Bass Pro Shops is the one in Memphis, Tennessee. In addition to being very popular, it is notable for one other reason. What is it? A, all of the fish in the aquarium are descendants of the fish that Elvis had in his aquarium. B, it has an actual moat you can test drive their motorboats in. Or C, it is located inside one of the largest pyramids in the world.
Well, I know the arena where the Grizzlies play is actually called the Pyramid, right?
Yes.
I'm going to go with C.
Yeah, it is.
That's
In
right.
fact, yeah, the pyramid was built for some civic purpose.
That's a big jump.
Big jump. Yeah. It's meant to be a 2/3 scale model of the Great Pyramid of Giza, and just like that world wonder, it was also built by aliens. And now there's a Bass Pro Shops in it, which is pretty awesome. All right, here's your last question. Sadly, not everyone is happy with Bass Pro Shops. In fact, a man once filed a $5 million lawsuit against that company over what? A, the fact that he spent over $3,000 on premium fishing gear and still could not catch anything.
That sounds American.
B, they stopped replacing his $12 pair of socks after about 10 times, even though they had a lifetime guarantee. Or C, he got dysentery after getting thirsty in the middle of the store and taking a drink from one of the artificial trout streams.
Wow. Whoa.
Well, I already got 2 out of 3.
You did, man.
I'm actually going to go with A.
You're going to go with A, the fact that he spent $3,000 on fishing gear and still couldn't catch anything.
Yeah.
No, it was actually B. It was about the return of the socks. Bill, how did Christian McBride do in our quiz?
Well, he's a winner. 2 out of 3. That's a win.
Congratulations. Christian McBride is a Grammy-winning bassist and the artistic director of the Newport Jazz Festival and the Jazz House Kids. Christian McBride, everybody! Last last August, we talked to Diane Lane, who had been nominated for an Emmy at that time for her performance in the TV show Feud, 45 years after making her film debut at the age of 14.
She had been performing even before that, doing experimental theater in downtown New York and on tour in Europe. Peter asked her about the effect of that formative experience.
I'm still in therapy about it. No, I'm kidding. Half kidding. The world was a different place then. It was, you know, I wound, there was no airport security. We didn't need it. I remember getting off the plane and running into my mother's arms, and around my neck could have been anything, but it was a 5-pound, well, maybe a 2-pound tortoise. And I had bought it on the River Seine in Paris, because back in the day, they sold animals by the river in Paris. Don't ask.
So you came off the plane, you hold the tortoise out to your mother, and your mother says what?
She shrieked. And I had that turtle for years. His name was George. Turned out George was female. Did you know that the bottom side of a tortoise will reveal the gender? Because the male have a slight indentation curve so that they can mount the female.
You know what I love? I love
That tortoise lied to me.
I love the idea of you being on the set of your first big movie, A Little Romance, with Sir Laurence Olivier, and you telling him stories like this.
It's adorable. I was much more 2 ears, 1 mouth around Lord Larry.
I can imagine. You have played a comic book character. In your case, more comic book character adjacent, but you played the mother of Superman.
Martha Kent, yes.
Martha Kent, famously. And this is the Henry Cavill Superman, right?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. You said, you're like, okay, was that his name? Okay, yes. So how have you found, after all the other things you've done, after being a well-known person, you had your Brat Pack period and all these other periods, to be like a star at Comic-Con?
Oh gosh, I am such an introvert. I don't know how I would handle that.
So you've never been. You didn't have to do that. You didn't have to go to Comic-Con and all the Superman fans were like.
I dodged it. I did. I chickened out. I was just those crowds. They make me. I have agita, as my friends say.
Agita. You have agita, as they say in New York. How can a shy person be constantly on screen? Isn't that weird?
Yes, I told you, my therapist is rich.
So the latest project you're in, it's a TV show. It is remarkable. It is called Feud. It's about a very real situation in New York society in the 60s and 70s when Truman Capote wrote a book that enraged his society friends, of whom you are one.
Slim Keith, I portrayed Slim Keith.
Slim Keith, who was a real person.
Yes, socialite extraordinaire, a real maven, a real connector of other people. I don't know, I think of them as sort of sassy pants people.
Sassy pants people. Sassy pants people. That's what Truman Capote called them, and that's what made them so mad. You've been promoting this TV show all week, and you've been asked about it and answering questions, as you've done for us.
Yes.
Before we move to the game, is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
Is it? I don't feel safe suddenly.
Oh, this is a safe space. This is a safe space. This is totally a safe space. If there is anything on your mind, Diane Lane.
Would you like to talk more about the underside of turtles?
For example.
No, I'm open to talking pretty much about anything. I'm starting to sweat now, but that's okay.
That's okay. All right. Well, we actually have something for you to talk about because we have invited you here to play a game that we're calling
Swan versus Swan.
So, as we've established in the TV series, you play one of these society ladies that Truman Capote called Swan. So we thought we'd ask you about actual swans.
Well, I was going to put that.
The waterfowl.
The bird.
The bird. Answer 2 to 3 questions about swans correctly. You'll win our prize, one of our listeners, any voice they might choose on their voicemail. So, Bill, who is Diane Lane playing for?
Ryan McGee of Prescott,
I took one bite
Are
of
you
that.
ready to do this?
It's like, oh
Sure.
my God, it's good.
Okay. Here's your first question. Swans are notoriously temperamental, but
Blackie
one pair of
practically
swans had
attacked
to be
me. I
forcibly
pushed her,
removed
yeah.
from a lake in Austria because they kept doing what? A, hunking the melody of ABBA's Dancing Queen. B, pooping on every single couple that were trying to take engagement photos at the lake. Or C, attacking anyone who got near their nest which didn't have any eggs, just a bunch of red Solo cups.
Oh, it's gotta be C.
It is C. The swans apparently had mistaken these cups for their eggs and would attack anyone ferociously who dared to approach them. That was very good, and I liked your instincts. You know your animals, as we have established. Here's your next. Now, probably the most famous swan is, of course, the ugly duckling, right? From the beloved children's story.
Spoiler alert.
I'm sorry.
Wow, just cut right to the end there.
That's the story, of course, that teaches kids that everyone is beautiful in their own way, and you shouldn't accept the judgment of others. In the original version of the story, the ugly duckling is finally approached by a group of regal swans ready to claim him as their own. What is the first thing the ugly duckling says to them? A, quote, finally, a family of my own. B, quote, and this is why no one should ever be judged in their appearance alone. Or C, quote, kill me.
Well, I believe it's A, but B is fun too. Let's go with A.
It was actually C. Thankfully, the swan did not accede to the duckling's request, which is shocking given what we know about swans. All right, you've gotten one right. You have one to go. If you get this right, you win. Yours is not the only TV show that we have had with swans in the title. Back in 2004, Fox broadcast a show called The Swan. What was that show's premise? It was just a remake of Everybody Loves Raymond that replaced Ray Romano with a live swan. A reality competition in which self-proclaimed ugly ducklings are given lots of plastic surgery until at the end one is judged the most beautiful. Or see a documentary show that just shows the daily life of Bucky, a swan that lives in a pond in New Rochelle, New York.
Wow, I want C to be true, but I'm gonna go with B anyway.
Because that's the world we live in, isn't it? Yes, that's what it was. The Swan, which apparently was very popular, still only lasted one season because it was kind of gross. Bill, how did Diane Lane do in our quiz?
2 out of 3, Diane. That is a win in our game.
Congratulations. And let me say, since you have an Emmy nomination for your show, Swans, may I say I hope this is not the last thing you win this year.
Oh, thank you.
Diane Lane is an Emmy nominee for her role as Slim Keith in FX's Feud, Capote versus the Swans. You can stream the whole series on Hulu now. It is remarkable. Diane Lane, thank you so much for joining us on What We've Done Television. A punk icon and a pair of comedians making the Midwest cool again. That's when we come back with more of Wait, Don't Tell Me from NPR.
I'm Eric Glass. A cop pulls a guy over because his van is swerving across the road.
Standing next to the man was a chimpanzee. The man said he was doing really well, and then he lost control of the van. And I'm like, lost control of the van? Like, at what point was the chimpanzee really in charge of this thing?
Some stories just don't fit into the daily news shows. This American Life.
Saturdays at 11 and Sundays at 7.
High up on a hill overlooking Fort Collins, a giant A marks the town as the home of the CSU Rams?
Huh?
One winter day in 1923, Colorado Agricultural College students hiked up a hillside near what is now Horsetooth Reservoir with rocks, tools, and determination. After a few hours, the Aggies had earned their A. The following year, the emblem was expanded to 450 feet top to bottom and painted white, making it visible from both campus and the city. Later, the Aggies became the Rams, then the school became Colorado State University, but the A on the hillside remains. What began as a lime and water bucket brigade paint job is now done with a generator-powered sprayer and a volunteer team of students and alumni. And every year, new students hike to the A to leave a small white pebble as a symbol of their place in CSU's history. A Colorado postcard from CPR with support from Coble and Company.
Support for NPR comes from this station and from Proven Winners with Proven Winners Color Choice Shrubs, offering flowering shrubs and evergreens for gardens and landscapes at garden centers nationwide. Proven Winners, colorchoice.com/NPR. Moderna, committed to protecting people from COVID-19. The CDC recommends getting a second dose of this season's COVID-19 vaccine for those 65 and older. Doctors can advise about getting a second dose. And BetterHelp, committed to supporting mental health through therapy. Clients are matched with one of 30,000 therapists and can communicate via video, chat, or phone at betterhelp.com/public. From NPR and WBEZ Chicago, this is Wait, Don't Tell Me, the NPR News Quiz. I'm Bill Curtis, and here is your host. At the Studebaker Theater in the Fine Arts Building in downtown Chicago, Illinois, Peter Sagal.
Thank you, Bill. And thanks, everybody. So we have been enjoying a spring break this week, and I have to tell you, we are not even done with the show, and we're already partied out.
When I was a young man, it wasn't a good night out unless I had already started the next one.
So while we take a break from our break, here's two more great conversations we had in the last year. First, Kathleen Hanna, founder of the seminal feminist punk band Bikini Kill. She joined us in July, and I asked her why she was getting the band back together.
I really need a beach house in Malibu, and feminist art pays so well that I just figured, go for the millions.
Yeah,
no, I mean, clearly with everything going on in the world, we were just like kind of reinvigorated to sing the songs again.
Absolutely.
It just felt like the right time. I didn't want to sing these songs 15 years ago, and I really want to sing them again now. They feel really like it feels good physically to sing them on stage.
Maybe when you sang them 30 years ago, it worked, but the effect wore off. Now you have to reapply Bikini Kill. Let's talk about your background. I was reading in your book. I was reading your book that you recently published, Rebel Girl, which is a remarkable memoir. But I was surprised by so many things in it. One of them, I was so surprised by your first time singing on stage, which you say in the book was like a really important moment when you realized like that's what you wanted to do. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, I got the part of Annie in the musical Annie.
Yes. If you're gonna play Annie, that's the show to do it in. Yeah.
Well, what actually happened was a woman who had a son who went to the school complained that it was sexist, that there weren't very many parts for boys in it. So the play actually ended up being a really horrible mashup of Annie and Oliver. Also, about orphans, I guess they were like, let's do one boy orphans and girl orphans.
Wow.
But yeah.
And then they were fighting each other, so it was like West Side Story.
He was like 2 feet tall, and I was like 4'8", so I really felt like it was not a fair fight.
Right.
And he was a very cute, sweet kid, and he made everybody cry with that dumb "Where Is Love"
Where is
song,
Love?
so
Yeah, it's a tearjerker.
It is a tearjerker. Can you still do, or have you been tempted to do the big song "Tomorrow" from that show?
Oh, I do it all the time.
Can we hear it?
I can't do it with earplugs in. Let's see. The sun will come out. I can't do it right now.
The next one is tomorrow.
Literally, I just drove here from Hershey Park, Pennsylvania, where I was like, I was on roller coasters for like 10 hours, so I'm sort of like fried.
Did you just go to hang, or were you guys playing at that there's a big venue there?
Oh yeah, no, we don't play venues
It's
that
not
big.
that
But
big?
thank
Okay.
you, thank you very much.
You could, you deserve it.
Yeah, of course. I went to ride the Super Duper Looper again because I rode it when I was like 10, and so I took my son so he could ride it, and he loves roller coasters. He's an enthusiast.
That's great. I was just there a month ago. It's thrilling.
It's thrilling.
It's a nice park. It's a nice park.
When you walk around in a big public place like Hershey Park, are you recognized by your fans from any of the projects you did? But I'm thinking mainly of Bikini Kill.
No, and oddly, the day that we went, it was Foo Fighters were playing. And Foo Fighters, Dave Grohl used to be in Nirvana, and we were friends with them when we all first started playing music. And everyone was wearing Nirvana shirts and Foo Fighters shirts, and not one person recognized me. So as I was sort of on the rise, I was like coming to terms with, did I make the right decision? Like, should I sign to a major label? Should I have, and I was like, you know what? My son is so psyched right now, and we're having a really good time, and no one's coming up and bothering us. And I was like, this is actually kind of awesome.
Yeah, there you go.
Now I wish it would make the story perfect if it turned out that Dave Grohl had played Oliver in that production.
Well, Kathleen Hanna, it is a pleasure to talk to you. We have invited you here to play a game that this time we're calling
Kathleen Hanna Meet Hanna-Barbera.
Hey, you lit up. You must know, I think you and I are similar in generation, so you must remember that Hanna-Barbera is the legendary animation studio behind beloved shows like the Flintstones and Scooby-Doo, and less beloved shows like the Partridge Family 2200 AD. So we're going to ask you 3 questions about Hanna-Barbera, the animation studio. Get 2 right and you'll win our prize, one of our listeners, the voice of anyone they might choose in their voicemail. Bill, who is Kathleen Hanna playing for?
Sonny Paley of Georgetown, California.
So here's your first question. Flintstones fans take the show very seriously, so when many of them realized that no one ever mentions what Barney Rubble's job is, they began calling the studio at all hours. The calls were so frequent that the studio responded how? A, by having whoever picked up the phone immediately say, I know why you're calling. You want to know what Barney Rubble did for a living. He worked at the quarry. B, by making a special 8-hour-long episode that follows Barney's entire workday minute by minute. Or C, by just canceling the show out of spite.
Oh, God, that's so hard. I thought for some reason I was thinking he worked at the bowling alley.
Yeah, he just spent a lot of
one.
That's right.
They had
A. And no surprise, the majority of those calls were late at night from drunk people. Next question. That was very good. After the Flintstones, Hanna-Barbera had another huge hit with Scooby-Doo. Now, in order to create Scooby, animators did what? A, gave an actual Great Dane LSD and watched how it acted. B, gave themselves LSD, looked at a Great Dane, and drew how it looked. Or C, studied all the desirable traits of award-winning show dog Great Danes and then drew the opposite.
Oh, wow. Let's say, I guess I'll go with the safe answer 3, but I think it's really 2, but I'm going to say 3.
It is 3, or rather C, and I feel bad that you saw it as the safe answer, yeah. So they interviewed a Great Dane breeder about, like, what's the most perfect example of the breed? If it's a perfect dog, what does it look like? And she described it, and they just drew the opposite. All right. Though they were hugely successful, as we remember from our childhoods, Hanna-Barbera loved to work fast and cheap, so sometimes mistakes slipped through, like which of these in the Saturday morning cartoon Super Friends? A, sometimes the superhero's pants would disappear mid-scene. B, sometimes Batman's voice would come out of Superman's mouth. Or C, sometimes Green Lantern had 3 arms.
Oh, that's B.
Actually, yes, it was B. It was actually all of the above.
I figured it was all of the other last one too.
Not all that quality control back in our youth, am I right? Bill, how did Kathleen Hanna do in our quiz?
She killed the bikini. Kathleen, you're something. Not many people do that well.
That's true. 3 right. Congratulations. Kathleen Hanna is a singer, songwriter, and punk icon. Her new memoir, Rebel Girl, is out now. It is a bracing and moving read, and you get to see her on tour this summer with Bikini Kill. Kathleen Hanna, thank you so much for joining us on Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Us. That was enormous fun. Take care. Finally, one of my favorite conversations from last year with Bridget Everett and Jeff Hiller, stars of the remarkable HBO show Somebody Somewhere.
It's a hard show to describe, so when they joined us in November, Peter asked them to do it.
I don't know, it's a slice of life. It's about friendship. It's, it's about making each other, lifting each other up and, And, we're not afraid of a fart joke. I don't know if I can say that on NPR. I don't know.
Our show is all fart jokes.
Really, I know. You and I have the same formula. Bridget, since you are from Manhattan, Kansas, and it is a show set in Manhattan,